Order, since I think everybody's here that's coming.
I can't go there.
Val, you online, you want to call the roll, please?
Actually, Valerie's not taking notes tonight, so,
Okay, who's clerking tonight?
We're recording.
the recording is.
Recording.
Let's- So let's do we can do the roll. Bob Bender,
Here.
Brian Bushnell,
Here.
Barb Ermeling here, Brian Ermeling,
Here.
Dwayne Gow,
Here.
Gary Gert,
Here.
Joe Jordan. Absent. Mort McBean,
Here.
Steve Minell,
Here.
Aaron Nelson,
Here.
Lauren White,
Here.
Shane Zagami,
Here.
and staff president, ex officio, President Mark Maloney, Administrator Donner. We have some other members or other people present. John Ziegler, Nathan Crow, Scott Tetro, Jessica Troutman, and Michael Wadowski. Okay,
Okay, thank you. We'll set the motion to approve minutes of the last meeting. Any amendments first? Anything that anybody wants to note on the minutes? I assume you all had a chance to look at them.
I had a question on something that was stated. It was relative to review of the plans to understand what was intended. There was a term, I don't know if it was shown in the minutes correctly, leave it or rev it.
Oh, yeah.
Did it have to do
What was
with,
that?
did it have to do with verifying that there were no conflicts with different trades on the plans? Is that what that was related to?
Building, BIM, building information modeling or Revit.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a software package that can be compactable, used by different trades.
That's on page 8 of the minutes with the markup in them. So the sentence said, current question if they are doing any on Revit for clash detection. So that's what that meant, was clashes or conflicts between different trades or whatever on the plans. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what that was answering is our complete design team from architectural, structural, MEPs all work in the same exact 3D model. So what that's class detection is one of the items it can do. Kind of, they can see live where a beam is or a column or something. So when they're running their duct work or lighting, they can specifically see the structure. So yes, we do run in that 3D model.
Was the correct term REVIT or what is that? Is that correct?
Yep, Revit is correct. Yep, or BIM is the Revit is the product. BIM is the technology, I'll call it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the minutes? Somebody like to make a motion to accept them?
So move.
Steve, is that, Steve moves
Nice second.
and Aaron seconds approval of the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Great. Okay, so let's get into the review of the facilities design. This is kind of a general topic here. We're going to get a little more specific when we get into the building mechanical systems. But do we have any questions from last time on the facilities design in general? Or did we get those questions answered last time, Dwayne?
Yeah, after the last meeting, I heard a lot of comments and I've been looking over the plans. And I have a few questions, John, and when he did the planning of the whole facility. And first question, John, is that when you plan a facility, you also plan for future growth. We understand the staffing area. one of the questions I have is that when you plan for it, when you design the second floor, did the second floor cover new growth or some of the existing staff too?
Yeah, the second floor, the best way to answer that is the second floor office piece that you're seeing on the screen right now is 11,525 square feet. Of that area, 3,000 of that 11,000 is not being used. It's for future growth. Now,
Sorry.
so the upper right square, I think this is an old plan. Because remember, we've taken some of those cubicles, so does that answer your question? So of the second floor, only anywhere from 2,100 to 3,000 is the blue for future. Or, there are conference rooms we need today, but the future growth is at 2,100 square feet in the upper right, and I'm rounding numbers up.
Okay, John, my second question for the commission myself is that when we started working this plan, I'm putting it this way, I know I'm Johnny come late because a lot of work has been done before this committee was created. So I'm sorry I'm asking some of these questions, but next question was, did you look at this design or this process of a second floor when you're looking at the existing site here, when you're looking at the tight site, if that's yes, did you just take this plan then and move it over to the new site and continue working with it?
A little bit of both. Primarily the shape and layout was started at the current site you're sitting in. But when we moved to the new site and we started positioning on the site to maximize the site for future growth and then also to maximize what we felt for the bang for the buck as much as we could stack things on top of each other, we felt it was best to keep that 2-story level than to sprawl out on the site. So we did think about it both ways. Our thought there, Dwayne, is in committee is if we were talking, 7,000 or 8,000 of the 11,000 was future, then it might make sense just to tack on a couple extra square feet on the first floor. But since the majority of both levels are going to be occupied right away, it just made sense to stack it to save dollars in the construction cost.
Okay, because I looked at the existing site and I was wondering if you went through that analysis because I know it's got a lot of room and was thinking, do we really need a second floor? But I understand why you have it because of the growth. And I see that you went through the analysis. So I kind of wanted to bring that out to make sure that we all knew that we're kind of committees, like I say, we came later than when a lot of work was done. So I just wanted to bring that out and see how that process went through. I thank you.
Other questions on general facilities design? If not, let's move into the mechanical systems, which generated some comment last time. And so John has with him today, I understand you're a mechanical design person or whoever who's going to talk to us a little bit about mechanical systems, HVAC. And I think maybe Gary has some questions in regards to that.
Yeah, correct. So I have 2 engineers on from our team, Rich Root and Charles Roberts. I asked them to kind of go high level of what we have designed into the plan to date and kind of why. And then I also brought the system that Gary had mentioned last week and wanted them to touch on that. They were well aware of that system. And we've actually studied it for another facility, but Rich can touch on that. So with that, I'll introduce Rich Root or Charles, whoever's going to speak.
Good afternoon. This is Rich Root, Root Engineering Services. And for this facility, the direction we're going, I'm assuming your interest is mostly in the office spaces. But the system that we're going forward with is a VAV rooftop unit system, or VAV as in variable air volume, which is a system that's been around for quite some time. And what it involves is on a call for cooling, the air volume coming out of your diffusers overhead would ramp up and up to a maximum amount, depending on the on what the thermostat is reading. And when the temperature is satisfied, it would ramp down. That's in cooling mode. In heating mode, it would the air again would come on and be heated by locally at the zone at what we call a VAV box by hot water circulated from a high efficiency condensing boiler. So this kind of system is driven by a building automation system, basically a black box that communicates between the rooftop unit and all the VAV boxes and the boiler and so forth, and makes everything work. And it also can do diagnostics and things like that. So you can add as many or as few zones as you'd like with VAV. The rooftop unit has a built-in economizer that offers free cooling when you have a cooling load and you have cool air outside, say 60 degrees or so or less. It brings in air that's not refrigerated mechanically. It just brings in cool air from the outside to satisfy your cooling load. It can do heating and cooling in different zones simultaneously. If you've got a perimeter system a perimeter zone that needs heating on a cold day, it can do that. And simultaneously, if you have a cooling call on an interior zone, it can do that, and it can do it simultaneously. In terms of the efficiency of this, the boilers are 96% combustion efficient as a heating method. They're very good on fuel consumption. The rooftop units themselves are up. They're not taking up any space. They're not. There's no mechanical room that's necessary for them, and they're primarily serviced from their location on the roof. There is a boiler room requirement, so you're going to have to give up a little floor space for that. The other system that was discussed here is called a VRF, a variable refrigerant flow system, which uses central condensing units on the roof, and it pipes refrigerant to a variety of different fan coil units or air handling units that are generally small to as many zones as you care to set up. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. The VRF is often coupled with what's called a DOAS, a dedicated outside air system, which does your ventilation. The DOAS system often has energy recovery built into it, and it satisfies the code required ventilation air separately and disconnected from the VRF system. So there's advantages and disadvantages to each. One of the things that are key that we look at, we work with the Focus on Energy folks through your utility, and they analyze the energy costs, and they're offering a rebate for energy efficient design. And we have on previous projects, particularly the Brown Deer Library project, which we did about a year ago, we had them energy model the VRF versus VAV rooftop unit systems, and they decidedly came back that the energy cost, the cost to you, would be considerably less with a VAV as opposed to the VRF. A lot of that is because the VRF doesn't have a doesn't have an economizer for free cooling, whereas the rooftop unit does. In terms of performance, you guys obviously are in a cold climate. In a warmer climate, we have another office in Texas that uses VRF quite a bit. In their climate, VRF is a very good option because it gets cold there, but not real cold and like it does here. And heat pumps, which is the primary heat method for VRF, loses effectiveness as it gets colder. When you get to below zero numbers, the heating ability of the VRF is it loses some of its when you need it the most, it has the least. So we feel like in your climate, we'd have to couple that with some perimeter heat, like a baseboard heat arrangement from a hot water boiler. So we don't think you can get by with just with just the heat pump function of the VRF. So we feel like coupling the DOS and the VRF and the perimeter hot water heat would be a good system, but we feel like it's a better value for you to stay with the VAV rooftop unit system that we've been proposing, because it's a tried and true system that's been used in office spaces for a long time now, probably since the 70s. Obviously, the electronic controls have advanced it quite a bit and made it much better, but it's a system that has stood the test of time. VRF certainly is used a lot, particularly in bigger cities. We see it in high rises quite a bit now, even in the city of Chicago. And obviously, where we work down in Texas, where our other office is, they use it a lot, given that they don't have the really cold weather. You know, they're designed to temperatures about 15 rather than, minus 20. Big difference when you're talking about a heat pump. So we feel like the VAV is the best value for your money. The VRF certainly has a lot to offer. It does offer you the ability to add as many zones as you like, and it's probably a fairly cost-effective to have many, many zones. VAV can do the same thing, but the costs start spiraling up pretty badly when you have a large number of zones with VAV, particularly if you're doing reheat on every one of them, the hot water reheat on every one of the zones. So rather than me rambling on here, if there's any questions I can field on our system choice here, I would be happy to. And if you'd like me to describe what we're doing out in the vehicle areas, I'd be happy to do that as well, but I don't want to waste your time. So can I field any questions?
Rich, just let me throw out there. So we are, as Rich kind of started to focus on energy, we'll look at both these systems for us, and it'll help us also validate which way would be the best for the village. So they do multiple bundles, and this is the both systems we will make sure they look at.
So,
Barry, go ahead.
a couple questions, Rich.
Sure.
Have you ever engineered one of these fully through and got it submitted through?
Sure. VAV systems? Yeah.
No, the VRF.
VRF, yes. We have done VRF.
So have you used the
Like
indoor?
I said, our office in Texas does them often and on a daily basis.
I'm referencing in our climate here in Wisconsin.
Not in your climate, no.
Okay. We've done about a dozen of them already in the last several years.
They are
And
done, yes.
Yeah, and they're very efficient. You don't have to put them on the roof either. We've done them where we put them inside the building in a mechanical room and we do louvers with the makeup to get the airflow across the coils. So,
There's nothing that says you can't do that. That's true.
yep. And then the energy.
But
as
it
far
will
as-
heat up your building in the summer.
Yeah, well, you're ventilating it as well. You follow me? You're
Yes,
ventilating.
I do. I'm not saying it's wrong. It can be done, sure.
And as far as the DOS, the DOS system, you don't have to go with the DOS. You can do it, we've done it several times with the VRF, with the energy recovery, heat recovery ventilators. The economizing, I completely understand and get that. We look at it as, the VAV box, you're also gonna be, your maintenance on that thing is gonna be, we do a cost analysis with the maintenance included and also the equipment longevity on the roof. You're gonna have to replace that rooftop twice before you touch anything on the VAV. The other thing is your controls package with a VAV is about 3 times the cost of the control package that comes right with the VRF system. And it's easily function, anybody on site here can function it. The VAV system, the village is gonna have to acquire somebody to do the maintenance on it, or their system, I'm assuming. Is that what you're gonna design in? For the
I'm
control-
sorry?
For the controls package.
You're talking about the BAS?
Yes, your VAVs,
Yes.
your VAV, yep. So they're gonna have to have a controls contractor from offsite that the controls might be on this facility. You got an estimate about how much the controls are gonna be on this system? Just the controls?
The controls are a considerable part of it. We think you're probably gonna need a BAS, whether you have a VRF or a BAS, or a VAV system. I'm sorry. And I don't think, we're not even in the ballpark unless you have the energy recovery in your DOAS system. You're not even in the ballpark as far as comparison of energy.
Yeah.
I guess if we're gonna go down the VRF path, we need to go with the DOAS and energy recovery. It's not absolutely necessary, but
No, I'm not saying that the DOAS itself is very expensive. I'm just saying you don't have to use the DOAS. We've engineered them without the DOAS because the DOAS is very, very expensive.
yes, it is. At this time, though, a BTU from gas is a fraction of the cost of a BTU from electricity, and you're using electricity even though the multiplier from the VRF is considerable. It still costs a lot more, and that's what the focus on energy people told us when we did this direct comparison between VRF with a DOAS and energy recovery and VAV. And frankly, it wasn't close, and that surprised me. I was thinking VRF was going to be the package to use on our Brown Deer Library project, and the Focus on Energy people convinced us otherwise.
When we worked with Focus on Energy last year on it, they weren't doing anything with it because they didn't have enough information on it and enough history with it. But I think their tune has changed just recently. I'm not sure if you worked them, especially if you're designing the system with the units that can be brought inside. Because then you're using that energy efficiency and you're all year and you're using that heat as well. So if you design it with them in the building itself, I mean, there's some mezzanine and some second floor here, but we could talk after the meeting with one of our HVAC guys and our engineers that have worked together through these projects. And then there's a contract that we have to submit. We can submit both these plans and they can do an energy analysis on both of them as well.
Yeah, Gary, what I would like to do is our kickoff meeting, I believe, is December 10th. I'll confirm that through Keith, but I'd like to have a description of that bundle, and we'll definitely get that incorporated in the bundle. It's to be looked at. It's December 4th.
The nice thing about it is if you guys decide on that second floor or first floor, you want to move any walls or you want to close some facility portions in, like over at Weston Supply or over at ENT or New Surgical Associates, you could plug and play right into the manifolds, and it's not costing an arm and a leg, as Rich had explained earlier. It's very, very efficient to add zones, or if you want to, take a room that, say, Lauren and Steve are in one open area, and you want to put a dividing wall in it. Now you're kind of screwed because who's getting what, but you're able to easily put a cassette in either one of your rooms and have complete control of it. And it eliminates, as I've mentioned earlier, Rich, it eliminates a lot of bickering with inside offices where I really don't care what anybody says. One person's gonna be hot in their office, one's gonna be cold, and there's gonna be electric baseboards in every room, unless you give them control.
Gary, do you know a system, the VRF, how many contractors, how is that being bid in your area? There are quite a few people for bidding, servicing. I guess that's
Yeah.
what I was curious.
Yeah, there's quite a few, actually. The new Aspirus, when we did the ones in town here, Aspirus actually put it in their brand new clinic in Rhinelander as well. We just got done doing another one for some office complex.
No, I'm not talking building location. I'm saying
Contractors.
installing contractors and
Yeah.
service contractors.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah, there was probably
Okay.
got seven different, the Tweet Garrett's and any of the bigger companies are doing them. They're all on the bidding. Any of the mechanical contractors are doing them. The controls package is what really helps it as well. Because the control package that comes with it, and you typically don't get a control package with any VAV system, but I'm not a heating guy. I'm a master plumber by trade, but I've learned enough about the stuff with our guys. And it's a little bit more cost upfront, but it's about a 3 to 5 year payback on the difference. But the availability to have zoning, unlimited zoning in there without a bunch of money. And it's not only that, it's your roof loading on the heavy equipment, the ductwork that doesn't have to go into the system, and the amount of room you can save in headspace. So I know that was real critical on the project we just worked on, was the engineering and the weight losses that it did for the structural engineering portion of it. So it was just a thought I threw out there and asked a question.
So can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
So, my understanding, John, is that you're going to be proposing the alternates or having Focus on Energy evaluate these two as alternates. And I guess,
Correct. They call them bundles, but correct, yes.
all right, so the kickoff meeting you're talking about is the kickoff meeting with Focus on Energy, introducing our project, and then they're going to do the analysis on which system they would recommend for our application, our situation. Correct?
Correct. They'll take each bundle and literally give you an output. This is what they recommend. This is how much payback they'd give to the village. And this is the most energy, they'll lay it all out for you to make the best decision.
Their only consideration in their analysis is energy and energy cost. They're not going to look at anything else, just energy and energy cost though.
But it also.
That's all they do.
But also it goes off the design of it as well. They're not designing the system for you. So if you design the system.
No, they're not.
You design the system with them out on your roof. It's got a whole different energy calculation than they are if they're designed inside.
So that's part of my question here.
Yeah.
You talked about having some kind of preliminary look at what this would look like. This hasn't been something that we have to this point asked CUNY to do or their sub-consultants to do. They've come up with what their recommendations are based on prior experience.
Yeah.
So if this is gonna be reviewed to the extent that I think you're expecting it to, does there need to be some type of a additional input to them to submit this to Focus on Energy? Am I making sense? Like a preliminary design, a concept design for it?
And again, Focus on Energy, when we dealt with them, they didn't have enough statistics to warrant it. So, we just need to, when we sat down with the doctors and Godorzi's, they had a VAV system already designed that we threw the alternate out there for the VRF. So, we did the cost analysis on both systems, including the maintenance, what the maintenance costs you, along with the replacement cost after 15 years for a rooftop. So we did all of the comparisons and we sent that out to a company down in southern part of Wisconsin, border of Illinois, that does the cost analysis for you and energy difference. And I'd be more than happy, Rich, to get on with some of our guys that have done the designs with these, some of these clinics and office buildings. What they've been doing is they'll do in-floor heat and all the, some of them will do it through the whole building, but most of them are doing, just a outer perimeter in-floor. And then
You're
that's
doing
how,
floor radiant?
yeah, they'll do some floor radiant with the VRF, especially if it's a lot of glass.
Right, we had, hydronic baseboard in mind, but floor radiant would be even better, but you are really starting to jack the price up here with floor radiant.
Well, it's, you got a boiler for your VAVs too, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we put tubing underground versus having to put tubing or copper up above ground and all the hangers and so.
Well,
it's really-
the battle we've seen with that, Gary, is, and I'd rather not spend tonight kind of debating all the systems, but you know what I mean? You got in-ground insulate. I mean, we've been down a lot of those paths and we're all concerned with the budget today. So I want to just be conscious of that. But didn't you say you felt more recent focus on energy had a better understanding of the system?
Yes, that's why I said,
Okay.
if I could get with Rich and, just, if anything, just communicate with our team, that's.
Yeah.
These, and then how we've overcome some of the design issues. And there are some newer systems that are actually -15 and -20 now. There's a lot of newer technology coming out. So there's some of the systems that we put in that were inside internally that if the newer equipment would have been available, we could have had it up or on the roof or on a different system, a design. But the technology changes so fast that it's really coming around. But I'd be more than happy to if I can get Rich's contact to have a meeting, just a telephone conference, 15, 20 minutes to run through it. And then we can communicate with Focus on Energy or whatever it may be.
Yeah, let's do that early next week prior to the December 4th meeting that we have with them.
Sounds great.
Brian has a question down
Brian,
How many VAV zones are you anticipating in the building?
Ooh, not sure if I have a count for you right now. Charles, are you on the line?
Yeah, I don't think you'd have a count because we've juggled so much of the areas up, Rich.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess,
Rich, I'm on the line, but I don't have an exact count for you here.
Okay.
I mean, I
didn't think
guess
so,
the
but
question would, how many offices are you running per VAV? Are you putting a VAV in every room? I mean, the VAV box is what's expensive. So are you zoning it?
It usually depends on their exposure too, so.
It does, and it depends on your budget. The meter does start to spin a lot faster when you start putting a whole lot more zones in. It can be done, but particularly the impact on the BAS. He mentioned the control package. It does affect. It's $2,000 a point is kind of the generic, controls arrangement. So. You're probably looking at 15 zones per floor, something like that, maybe 20. 2 or 3 offices per VAV box is probably the way we would go. That would be a reasonable value. But if you wanted more control, that's easy to do. It just costs more money.
Well, that was really my question is what you're proposing, because obviously I wouldn't propose one for every office because it just cost prohibitive. So.
That's not I think what Rich is telling you, that's typically what we would not have.
Right.
Inner offices, usually you have one box for 3. Outer offices, depends if it's a, southern exposure, it might have one corner office. So I think a good average is, it all depends on the interior, exterior office.
I guess.
But it's not one every office.
I just wanted to throw the comment out there. If we're looking for energy efficiency, looking for green energy, instead of spending $1 million on solar panels or solar hot water and or solar electric, that if we could look at a more energy efficient or newer technology and more comfort for each office setting. So that's why I threw that out there.
I think the thought process for solar though, is that would be potentially more of a future addition than perhaps more cost effective in the present. That's not saying it couldn't.
Well, it's not, definitely not cost
As it looked at
effective in the present.
But this has to be done on the front end, what you're talking about.
Yeah, no matter what, Keith, then you're gonna have to tell these guys that you wanna put, they're gonna have to do a design load for the roof to carry all that solar up there as
Which
well.
he has already
It's
addressed.
3 pounds, it's 3 pounds a square foot. We've kind of analyzed this. It goes right in line with the dead wind load and that the structural guy calculates in. So that's going in no matter what.
I guess a couple other questions then related to this. In terms of the overall cost estimate right now, the mechanical or HVAC system has not been broken out in terms of a budgetary line item. And I don't know if it would help to do that in terms of this conversation because, you know, we're talking about, what the impact budget would be and so then there's other questions about design and timeline. But I think to have it reviewed by Focus on Energy, it sounds like that's something that should be done here. And will be done. The other commentary about the controls and maintenance of the system, it'd be my perception that that's gonna be a requirement regardless of what system we put in. Now, whether we get some staff trained to do that in the future, I don't know. I mean, maybe the stuff right now is fairly simple and straightforward. Maybe the stuff that comes in is not quite so, but I don't know how that's gonna be handled. My thought, or my understanding was that at some point, we're gonna have some estimate of what the maintenance costs, maintenance cost implications might be, but we're also gonna be, I believe, realizing some savings on energy costs because of the increased efficiencies.
The other option, of course, is that you just assume you're gonna contract out for maintenance for the system. Depending on your,
Which we do to some degree now because of, you know, repairs and whatnot. I mean, there's a certain amount of maintenance we have to plan for, budget for. We don't do it all in-house.
Do you guys have a controls package that you're proposing or any particular brand?
You're talking about the BAS?
Yes.
We usually deal with Carrier.
Okay.
Carrier iView. But it's an open bid. So there'll be it'll be a competitively bid thing. So you'll have half a dozen interested parties out there.
Most of the time they lock in or tell you who you need to use, if it's a particular brand but.
We try to do multiple, Gary, so we're being you know what I mean? So it's not at one proprietary vendor.
Well, and that's where I was going with it, John, is those guys can start to get a little hefty on their charges. A lot of the.
Yeah, we don't lock into one. So that's what Rich was saying is there'll be multiple options for multiple, you know, whether it's, you know, Johnson, whether it's, you know, Carrier, there's gonna be multiple allowable bidders.
Sure.
okay,
When you have this kind of equipment, you know, Trane has their system, Carrier has their system, Johnson Controls has rooftop units now. They can come in with a package, and you can often get a good deal when one big supplier is doing, you know, all the big cost items. So there's some advantage to that.
okay.
Brian has a question.
Brian,
I'm sitting too low in the chair to follow a lot of this stuff, but it seems to me that the most efficient way to move this forward is to take Gary up on his offer to have his folks meet with the architect and the engineers, hash it out at a level of detail that most of us aren't able to do here, and come back at the next meeting. And I know that puts it off a bit, but we could spend a whole lot more time and not get anywhere near that.
Yeah, you're right. Dwayne?
I have one more question, John. I mean, the mechanical. Rich, what do you have for the garage, the shop? Just give me the system you're using. Heat,
Direct fired makeup air units, exhaust fans, and it's relatively with anywhere where you have vehicles, you're going to have the carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide sensing systems and with alarms, and polish it off with some infrared tube heaters.
okay.
And as long as the ceiling height will allow the infrared tube heaters. If the ceiling height's too low, you have to go with unit heaters.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, if you're looking at the infrared, that's what I was wondering if you could do that. That's all.
Right. It's pretty basic.
Mhm.
And basically the small exhaust fan runs all of the time. The big exhaust fan and the makeup air unit come on as the carbon monoxide, the Tox Alert or whatever brand sensing system. When it's carbon monoxide and nitrous oxide sensors say to come on, that's when they come on.
Okay,
So
thank you.
It's pretty much straight out of the Wisconsin code book.
Thank you.
Okay. Lauren?
I have one question. Forgive my ignorance, but both of these systems we're talking about, the heating, we're still gonna need ductwork, right? Neither one of them eliminates ductwork.
You will have ductwork no matter what, yes.
Okay, that answered the question.
Way smaller amount of ductwork because you bring in the fresh air into the.
Okay, that's what I'm
box
talking
onto the
about.
individual
Air
box.
changes.
Yep,
Thank you.
but it's a lot smaller.
All right, so, Gary,
But let me just answer one thing though. In the garage areas, you will not have large amounts of ductwork.
Right.
okay, so Gary, you're gonna meet with the.
Yeah, as long as I can get Rich's contact information, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Yeah, we can get that to you.
You bet. We'd love to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to our next agenda item then. We're talking about frequently asked questions or facts, which you've already got a
Excuse
handout
me.
on.
Excuse me.
I think
Go ahead, John.
there were some other things that
John's gonna question.
Go ahead, John.
Just excuse me. Do you think we can let Rich and Charles go, or do you want them still on the line?
No, they can go.
Yeah, they can go.
They can go.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. John, can you
Yep.
get the committee my contact information?
Yes, for sure. Yep.
All right, thanks. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep. Go ahead.
Before we moved on, there was a request at last meeting to have like a bullet point list of some of the energy conservation measures that were gonna be incorporated in this building. So John had a PowerPoint, a single PowerPoint slide that just reviewed what all of those are.
Okay,
So before we move on, it's related, or it's part of number 5 here.
okay. All right.
You're on, John. You're still on, John.
Yeah, my machine just, there you go. Yeah, so I just did a high level slide, as Keith said. Our goal is to have the project solar ready, and that's for the future. And there again, it's just structurally that the roof can take the extra 2 to 3 pounds that is needed. Little bit of what Rich touched on, energy recovery units, ventilation. Our goal is to make sure we come up with the best system. So I think working with Gary and his team and focus on energy, we'll do that. The insulated wall panels and the envelope, our goal is to make sure that we're using the correct R values, not just the minimum R values. So, anywhere from the walls, if we're talking 22 to 25, and in the roof, anywhere from 39 to 52. So all those things also get analyzed with focus on energy. So we have our baseline that we want to do, but they'll also kind of show us where it makes sense. Different sun shading devices, simple pieces with, on the south side, just having some screens on the windows, whether the exterior, nothing mechanical. So our goal is not to put something on the building that, moves with the sun. It's sunshades that just give us the shading we need from day one. As much natural light as we can use. Our goal is that the lights don't need to come on during the day because we have enough natural light to take advantage of. All low E glass, so wherever we're using glass, making sure we're using the right glass with the correct argon fill. That's another entity that we play around with focus on energy to make sure that we're getting the right glazing and glass in the building. Daylight views, we talked a little bit. D-strat fans, really the D-strat fans and also the exhaust fans, where we locate these over the years, we feel we've perfected this to take advantage of the things that we need. Rich mentioned a little bit the minimum exhaust that we need in the garage, the vehicle parking area, where our goal is we'll house that minimum exhaust in the wash bay where it's all wet all the time. So now we're always pulling the warm air through the wash bay. Lighting controls, pretty much we're keeping the garage simple. So every one of those lights that you see there will have its own sensor. So as you walk through the facility, they actually will turn on. So it's not like you see years ago. It used to be individual controls. One bank go on, the other bank doesn't go on. So it seemed to simplify it and actually getting better use of light and taking advantage of them not being on with the exterior lights. High efficiency LED lights, waste oil heaters. So the waste oil heaters will analyze whether we're using enough waste oil or not. The thing with the waste oil heater, it's on top of any other heating system. You can't rely on it, so it's an added piece. But we've been very successful where we have multiple garages that they heat their vehicle parking bay only on waste oil all winter long. There again, that particular agency collect it year long too, so it's a separate operation that you would have to do. But it's things that we look at to make sure we're taking planning as smart as we can. These are the green pieces like that, but taking it even farther to the types of carpets, anything possible, we're going to make sure we're following as many LEED standards as we can.
Brian, question.
John, in terms of the office areas, I've read articles where there's a recommendation to not do area lighting of the entire area, but rather do less area lighting and more task lighting.
Yeah, so the issue you have with task lighting and area lighting is the code still requires you to have a minimum, and you can't, if it's a task lighting, like they don't let you use that because it can be removed. So you got to balance that. Our goal is that we do the minimum and work the levels, and you realize when we go back to these spaces, you're exactly right. Typically, people have the majority of their lights off. So the control systems that we put in there not only have occupancy sensors, but you can program your lights so they only come on 50%. So every time you come in your office, it's just going to that level. And it's all in the local switch. This isn't through a lighting control panel, some sophisticated, it's within the lighting switch itself. And all these switches, most of them now have gone all to low voltage. So your lighting switches nowadays mostly is all interconnected with low voltage wiring.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the energy?
John, did you look at any of the POE system at all when you're looking at the electrical?
I would have had to defer that to Rich. I'm not sure.
What's POE?
Power over Ethernet, so instead of pulling actual copper wire, you're pulling a Cat5, Cat6 cable.
That's a must.
And I know that's how the lighting switches are,
That's a must.
but beyond that, that's all the farther I've ever seen that being taken. So all your switch and your controls for your light switch are all low voltage.
Your POE lighting that I've seen has typically been where you want to change color temperatures of the fixtures and so forth. It seems to be right now, the wave of using 0 to 10 volt dimming in each area, and you still supply 120 volt for the lighting. But your lighting is so low of a load that you can use less circuits than what you used to use.
Okay, any other questions before we leave this topic? Thank you, John, that was good. We're gonna move on now to our section 5, talking about frequently asked questions. And you should have the handout in front of you. It's kind of been wordsmithed a couple of times. In general, we talked about having frequently asked questions. Some of these, probably a shorter version, could be part of our newsletter communications, anticipating what the public may want to know. And the other more detailed version would be for you and for the Board of Trustees to have handy when people call you, gives you a little more detail about the reasoning behind the answer, okay? So, Keith, you wanna go through these briefly and just tell us what,
Sure, and just so everybody knows, this is a work in progress, and if you've had a chance to look at them and you have any comments, we just certainly want to hear, what those are and try to massage these going forward. Last week, Mort and I, Nate Crow and Brian got together, Brian Bushnell, to go through the, I guess what we wanted to kind of pare down the list that we had received, and there was a lot of questions that had been put forward by committee members, but some of them were very similar, so we came up with a list of 10. I think it captured the list, but maybe I missed one or two. First one to cover was, why do we need a new building? I was trying to think forward a little bit in terms of trying to put the main points, the high level stuff on, say, one level, and then as we develop our website, and other links on this frequently asked questions, people could drill down to more detail. So that's where I added some comments about, linking to more information.
I think the handles that we got are shorter page, just so everybody's aware. I think 3, 4, 5, 6.
It should be a two-sided copy.
We're short.
Yeah, we're missing
1, 2, 7, yeah.
I was looking at it on here. It's on your email you sent out, but it's just short page.
That's 13 on my list.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it here, but on the
Yeah,
handle.
there's 13 questions, right? Sorry. No, right. Thought I hit the right buttons on the copy.
Technology, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
I would just better copiers. Yeah.
What?
I hope we get better copiers.
I just need better operators.
It's a
Okay, well, I didn't want to go there.
Mark, it's a Mimeo machine.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
well,
Okay, so I could just read, I'll read off the questions.
yeah, just read the questions off.
So number 2 was renovation of the existing buildings considered? Why was the new site selected? Are there any alternate sites considered? How much will the project cost? How will the project affect my taxes? Number 7, if we don't construct a new building, will my taxes remain the same or even go down? What will we do with the existing site and the buildings? Do we know of any existing contamination on the current site? How does the new facility compare to the current one? So I think that one would include some kind of a table to kind of show what we would have in terms of areas of office spaces and things like that. The garage itself, and, trying to show a little more in a table form rather than using all words. Will the new building include technology which improves energy efficiency and conservation of resources? So of course, we've covered that. We have a PowerPoint slide we can probably incorporate in that, or as a thing to link to even. Will this be built by local businesses and contractors to keep money in the local economy? And then does this project require a referendum? I thought maybe one question that's missing, maybe how we arrived at the size of the building, how the process we used, whether we need to add that or not, I don't know, but because that's a list we're working on right now.
Question one, because you linked to the facilities assessment.
Okay,
Yeah, you have.
all right.
I
So
guess,
this is Nate's draft of the website right now. It's not live yet. Anyways, I guess the quick overview here without going through the answers or whatnot. So Gary's got a question for you.
I was just gonna say, I apologize, last week when I left here, Keith, you sent me an email with that link, and I didn't have time. It's been so busy.
That's
I
fine.
didn't have time to look through it, and then Brian shot it to me right after the meeting, and I finally got some time to go through it. It's quite extensive, but a lot of those questions that I asked were already, sounds like were already addressed or went through, and the information's all there. My question was, is that, are we kind of gonna load a lot of those things to the website that we can refer, if we refer one of the residents that may have some questions, there's frequency at, all the items that are in our link that you sent us, Keith, there's a lot of that information that Coonan has done or John has done. Will that be available to the residents to see?
Yeah, we want to make as much available. The trick, I guess, is trying to be concise and then give people a high level overview, allow them to drill down into more detail, I guess. And that's what we talked about today. And Nate's working on that with Jeff Busher and the people from G Morty and the makers, and trying to get this set up so it's more user friendly. And there's a little bit, I think one of the terms people use, a little pop to it, maybe, at least, maybe use some pictures and things like that. Michael's done a lot of work putting together some history of the whole process that we used, and got some pictures of the site and how this thing evolved. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of things that have been looked at for the last 4 years.
Yeah, it seems to be.
So, the challenge is just trying to get it more, more concise and
Fine.
and condensed, I guess. So, this is the first stab at maybe the high level stuff. And I didn't mean to muddy it up by saying this is where I want to add a link, but that's where I guess we got to work on this and make it more user friendly. So, anyway.
What I envision is that at some place, and that would most likely be the website, there's enough information there for those that really want to get into this. But for the average resident, we can have an edited down version. It goes out with a newsletter or the flyer. And for 90% of the people, that'll probably be enough. But there are those that want to get down into the details, and that should be available.
Well, at least if we don't 100% around the full of them know the statistics exactly right off the top of our head, we can say, there's a really nice link. It's got a ton of information there. Check it out at so and so.
So right on top of the list should be the advice to go to the website if you want more details, and with the website, how to get on that. Some people may not know how to get on the website. So we just make sure that's front and center.
Yeah, so what we're thinking is we should add that link that we want to make live to the first mailer that goes out. Or,
Either first or second, at some point, we need to tell them, here's where more detail is. But,
I think you should include the link on every letter that you send out.
Yeah,
sure.
Reminder.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. In fact, we've been talking, we're sort of morphing into this next, item, which is the mailer. We talked about, that's gonna be a bifold rather than a trifold, I mean, it's just a regular page folded in half. And so one side of that, half of one page is available to put more information on. We were talking about, well, what could we put on there? And that would be a good thing. Here's how to get more information. And with a website address and maybe some more information, but mostly it's, okay, here's how you get more details. Because that first newsletter going out, it's just not gonna have a lot of detail. It's basically just an introduction to the project. So that would make sense to have the blank part that we're trying to fill, put the contact detail information on there.
Sure. I think Brian had a question down here.
Brian?
Yeah, just a comment on number 5, Keith. I would add in there, we have the project cost, making sure we say that that includes the engineering, the architect,
Land.
the land, the furnishings, all the other stuff. Because again, Gary had pointed out, if you start figuring per square foot, you're gonna be going, holy cow. But, you know, you got furniture in there, you have a lot of other things. As you get into the garage, there's things in there that are in the project that are not part of the building.
Right, even some of those discretionary items that we haven't decided we're even gonna put in there yet, so, okay.
Demolition of the other site.
Right.
Keith, I have a question for Keith.
Barb?
Yeah, number 9. I'm not sure unless you know it. You should list where the asbestos is, because at one point in time, I thought when we remodeled that office area, there is asbestos ceiling above the drop ceiling. And this area over here used to be the furnace room, and I would think there might be something in there. So.
There is some asbestos board ceiling, I know, in the shop. And I
I
believe you
think
are
there's
correct,
some in the
in
office.
the office area above that layered ceiling is asbestos board also.
That'll all have to be tested anyway. It's not right.
But maybe in the answer, just be more general.
Yeah.
Saying we are aware of asbestos and other things that will need to be tested and remediated.
Yeah.
Too much detail.
Yeah, well, I was looking at that. I think there's more asbestos in this building than what you're speaking.
You know, I don't know if that was your question or mine, Brian. I think we both had the same one, but, you know, when they start seeing 1956, that's gonna be a question that comes up, especially all the work that's been done here.
Yeah.
And regardless if we stayed here or not, it would have to be dealt with.
Yep.
Either way, so.
I don't think it has it here.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter where it is here or underground. You know, if we had French drains back in the 50s and 60s, who knows? But regardless, we have to clean it up.
Right.
Even if we're gonna sell it, we're gonna have to do tests and everything else, so.
So I think
Just like we did with the GV property.
Okay,
Did all the tests there too.
more generic in that answer then.
with that all, either the value of what you get is going to be reduced or whichever at that point. So whether you look underneath this flooring here, there was tile, and whether that was, when that was put in, would make a difference as to what it's really in it.
Exactly.
Frazzle.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll try to be more generic with that answer.
Yeah, because when I read that, I thought, I think there's a little more than
You might want
that.
to say something like many older buildings.
Well, you might want to answer with regardless if we, you know, would stay, refurbish or build new or replace. I like the word replace better than new. It's got to get dealt with.
Yeah.
You know, we got to do the right thing,
That's a cost that's gonna be there regardless.
regardless.
Because any remodeling you start doing,
Exactly.
you can't just put a ceiling over.
Yeah, I think some of that was answered in number 7. Go ahead, Brian.
Along with, regardless of whether there's a new building, the ADA compliance, it says somewhere in here, or maybe more than once, that this building is not ADA compliant. So the reason you can use it is because it was built in 1956, and so it's grandfathered in as non-compliant? So at what point would you have to bring this building into compliance?
Is that a good question for John?
Anytime you remodel,
Yeah. Because
you got no choice.
Yeah.
The other,
Yeah, there's all different levels of remodel, but normally if you hit anywhere is over 49% of remodel, you got to bring 100% everything up to code.
Yeah, that's right. Ron, does that answer your question? You got no?
yeah, that answers that question. Well, the other comment that I would make, if you can scroll up to the business of how much does it cost? And how will it, I personally would move that up because there's been so much discussion in this group about the majority of the interest is going to be, what does it cost and what does it do to my taxes? And putting it down lower, if you put it out in paper, people are going to flip through it and go, oh, I finally found it. Might as well put it right up front.
Closer to the front, for sure, yeah. Okay. Good thought. So we will continue to wordsmith the frequently asked questions, and at some point, a version of this will go out with a newsletter, and the detailed version will be on the website. Okay, Lauren?
As President Maloney said, I think we may want to stay away from using new. And where we see new, put replacement.
Right.
I mean, it's really a minor issue, but
In the first answer, it is replaced down in the bottom. It's, in fact, it's in bold letters in the second paragraph. And you know, and like, we're gonna kind of wordsmith it to death. You know, so I think the committee is just gonna keep on tuning this. It's a fluid motion. But like that top question could easily be, why do we need to replace our municipal building?
yeah.
Give them ownership because they own it. This community owns everything we're doing, everything we're talking about tonight is being paid by the community.
Right.
So if we can use it is theirs. Ours, I don't mean ours, I mean theirs, you know? And give them ownership in this whole process.
They're paying for it.
And I love the word replace versus new. New has dollar signs all over it. So, and it's shiny and everything else.
Okay, we will definitely
Just a
have
thought.
replace and our in the first line.
Yeah, why do we need to replace our municipal building, you know?
And if,
Good,
all the way through, if you can talk about,
Yeah, just all around, yeah, that's all.
yeah, that's a good thought. So then,
Good information.
that kind of brings us to our flyer, which we've got back to one page. And as we said, we've got one half of this
Yeah.
will be available for something else. And including, you know, the website reference for sure, maybe what else we can put on there. And the other side will be the address to the postal resident or whatever. So any comments on the layout or stuff? This was Morty and the boys or something?
I like that top banner.
know that we've
Yeah.
I love the word serve. I can see it from here. I haven't seen that yet.
we haven't
shared this with
everybody yet. I don't
know,
if you can
get a version
up on the.
I have not,
I haven't seen it.
I have not seen that. I can see it from here though.
I have not.
And the word serve is huge. I
Yeah,
love it. I love the word serve.
this is one of 5 versions that were kind of put together by our public consultant, you know, that, and it really looks good. It looks like professional, which is what we want to look at this point.
I like the fact that you're able to keep it to one page. That's,
Yep, one page.
And what are you advocating on that second half? Obviously mail on one half.
well,
The other half something?
Well, it'd be.
website.
website information.
Oh, website information?
Website.
We're growing, you know, because Weston is growing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening here. Oh, building to serve.
This
Okay.
is a version, I think we've kind of, there's been some comments that S looks a lot like a $sign, so we want.
Well, it actually looks like the G in General Mills. you know, for my Cheerios, you know.
On the dollar side.
The other part is to make sure that more information will be coming.
Yes,
Yeah, that.
More to
that should be
follow.
On the blank tab that we've got.
more to follow. There you
This is
go.
the first of many new, in fact,
Yeah.
I was thinking about this, I thought, maybe the other thing we could add on that little blank piece is, here's what will be in the next newsletter.
Ooh, a little teaser. Yeah,
Little teaser, here's
Yeah.
what's coming,
Yeah.
and even give them the date.
yeah. Okay.
This is what this newsletter number 2 will discuss, costs,
Mhm.
taxes, stuff like that, you know, that's gonna get their attention.
This is what your committee, building committee is working on.
Right,
And we'll
right.
have for you next time. Yeah,
Right.
I like that.
Again, in the newsletter too, there's a couple where it talks about our, we want to reference your.
Right,
Yes.
right. Oh, I like
There's an
that.
S that doesn't look like.
That's better.
Yeah, put different
Options on the-
things. That's kind of like
Yeah.
that W in Weston.
Yeah,
sign.
building the serve, I
Yeah.
really like. I like that a lot. Aaron, you're being quiet. I'd like to hear I'd like to hear what you'd say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it looks good and I haven't read it yet.
Oh, okay, I haven't either. Yeah,
I'll look forward to seeing it.
okay.
That S is much.
Is there 2 of them there, or is this just different versions of the?
These are 5 different
Yeah.
versions of it.
Look at what.
I just like the S on this one better.
You got that coming back.
We can keep it simple and just restrict it to the, you know, the people that have been talking about some relations material, but you all wanna vote on it, that's fine too. Which one you like best?
No, I think,
What
you
number,
know,
which one is that? That's the 5th one. Which one do people kinda
Oh, that,
gravitate to today, Nate?
The 5th one, this is the one that already, that Jeff and I responded to that we like.
This one kinda follows what has been put forward so far. He changed some of the wording around a little bit on the other ones.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah.
I kinda like that because the S is a little better, I think.
yeah. Who's this? The Morty and the
This is
Mayor
from G. Morty and the Maker.
and the Makers? Are they a band too? Or what?
That's what I
I went online right away and I wanted to hear them, you know, so.
That's exactly what I
Yeah.
thought they were. That's their
Okay.
name of their company.
That's an awesome name.
Take that one for the village
This
report.
version, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that consensus?
Yeah.
All right.
You know, that serve looks like soft serve to me. So I could see a coupon for bricks. I could see a coupon to bricks right on the backside, you know. All right.
Okay,
So that has people's phone numbers. That's what we all agreed we were
Yep.
fine with. So Gary, we did not include, Mike Tyson in the list there. We were trying to save a line. I
That's
don't think
perfectly
he's
fine.
staying. He's been participating in meetings, so unless we think we should list him. Okay.
so Keith, when was our date that we're thinking this to go out? Okay.
So, yeah, we talked about timing then of the first mailer and then concern about, at what point we also notify the press because once we send it out to all the constituents, then there's gonna be the word out there, that, the press has missed something. So Mort had expressed his opinion or his perspective that we should really be letting the press know about this project at the same time or
Right.
before it comes to all the citizens. So my thought is that we do this on the second full week of December. And maybe on a Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know, like, my son works for the media and he says, Mondays and Fridays probably are probably bad days, but somewhere in the middle of the week is more preferred. I'm supposed to go and talk with the Central Wisconsin or Wausau area
Convention and Visitors Bureau?
no, Contractors Association or something like that on Friday the 4th. And just talk about the project. I don't know if I'm gonna give them a lot of detail, but I just let them know things are coming out.
Yeah,
So,
Have this
I don't know.
with you, take it with you,
I'm sorry?
take this information with you.
So anyway, the thought though is that we get that mailer out that same week then, that week of December, the first full week of December, so that would be between, the 4th is Friday, so 7th, between the 7th and the 10th, that would be, I guess. Or the Wednesday of that week be, the 9th.
So perhaps a goal of the ninth being the, go to press day, if you will.
We're gonna make sure it gets out before the tax bills.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, I think that will do that. Jessica's not with us here anymore, but she was, working on getting that all arranged, and that won't be ready by then, I know for sure.
I'm with you. What was the question?
Oh, when the tax bills might hit the mail.
So we're not quite sure. We typically hit the mail around December 8th, but we're hoping for a little bit quicker this year, but we're not sure.
Is that realistic based on what we talked about today? I didn't know we even had everything all ready to go yet.
We just have to enter our data, and once the new system, things are a little bit more efficient this year, so.
So that means we probably should get this next week.
Right.
Right.
Which should be okay.
We should be able to do that, I guess.
See, Keith, to keep the ministry in the dark.
What's that?
Keep the ministry in the dark. I've been there.
Not the first time, right?
Okay, so then we'll move back, our mailing of this to next week. And that will also, need the press conference scheduled for that week, or the press release, whatever.
That sounds good.
Well, that might match up with your meeting on the 4th anyway, so a little bit better.
True.
Yeah.
But it's all before that, then you can talk more about it.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Yeah,
That way you're not letting some cat out of the bag.
yeah, they'll be ready for
Yeah,
it.
there you go. Okay.
Good timing for you.
Okay, so next week then we'll get this out. And we'll have a press release. And this information then will also appear on the website. Because we're gonna tell them right in the website, go to the website for more information, more details. So it looks like we got some work to do between now and then to get all the facts ready.
Well, we get the basic ones up there, and then we can always keep building, I guess.
Right.
Getting more
Right,
information
right.
out there.
Okay,
So the letter goes out next week. Question and answers will be posted next week.
Yep.
And we'll speak to the press next week.
yep,
I like that.
And I'll get copies of the new revised, so we know what we're talking about.
what's that, Barb?
We'll get the new updated
Okay.
answer and questions,
Yes.
so we've got them.
Yes, we'll get
Sticking to the same story.
and finished up. And our next meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday.
December 2nd.
And if we could arrange this so that it all goes out Wednesday or even Tuesday. Press conference could be Wednesday,
And then meet at 4:30 and discuss
meet at
what we've all
4:30.
heard. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Might be a little early to get any feedback, but
Yeah,
at least we'll be
that's true,
live.
that's true, yeah. Yeah,
We'll have the answers then, all revised and ready.
Yeah. Yeah, the answers will be all finalized.
Good. Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry I wish I would have been there right with you guys in the trenches.
Sure.
But it starts off with, like all this, change the S. Have you heard the news? Question mark. The village is back on track with plans to replace our municipal center. The village seems like it's almost its own entity. I would suggest, have you heard? ... We are back on track with plans to replace our village municipal center.
Our village.
And not the village is back on. Who's the village? That's staff? That's, who? And I just, have you heard? ... Don't put the news in. Have you heard? ... We are back on track with plans to replace our village municipal center. I just think that flows a little, and they might grab it. Aaron hasn't seen that yet, so.
Right.
But just, it's easy to sit in the back seat or maybe the third seat or the eighth seat and then, talk about stuff, but
Sure.
just one little thing.
Okay. We can do that.
You do it how you want to do it. I think that's fantastic. I love to serve.
Yeah.
I
it
love the
keeps
whole
theme
thing. It's
of
just fantastic.
we and ours versus
Yep.
village, whatever. Yeah, okay. Got it. All right. Brian,
A couple of questions. The website, is that gonna be a button on the village website that you click on to take you there? Or is it a separate website?
Gonna be a button on the main page, right?
On the homepage?
Right.
On the homepage.
Yeah, it's gonna,
it'll be on the top bar, right?
I think we're gonna swap out this municipal code button right in the middle,
Where?
right in the middle
Oh,
here,
right smack in the middle.
Yeah.
and just put building to serve.
Oh, building to serve, love that. Yeah, make it bigger, make it prominent. They're gonna be looking for it.
Yeah,
So right in the middle
Yeah,
there, and then we'll just find another spot with the code link.
Yeah.
Period, someplace in there.
So building, well, you're gonna have, is the word serve there? Building, what?
Building to serve.
Oh, building to serve, got it, okay.
Is that too cryptic? Are people gonna know?
Yeah,
Well,
it needs to grab attention.
You gotta make it bigger, you know. Are you looking for me? An arrow or something, I don't know. I wouldn't let it look like those 5 right now.
yeah.
I would identify it either larger or different colors, or I wouldn't put new building,
Try to incorporate that
Yeah.
logo from the flyer.
Sure,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
new site for building, whatever.
that would tie it together if you had the building logo.
So the flyer goes out with that logo and
Yeah.
the button. So if I go on the website, I see that, oh, okay.
That's
Yeah,
a good idea.
it's gotta be prominent.
We could perhaps replace the it's right here,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah,
and do something there.
that's even better.
I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I do too. It's right, it's right, you know.
First thing you
That
say,
way our
first thing
logo-
you say.
Our logo is consistent.
Yeah, click me.
Good point. Okay, let's do it that way. That's okay.
We gotta ask Morty and the makers.
You can do that in about 5 minutes, right, Nate? He's working, hard working.
Okay, we have press release on there. Anybody want to add anything to that? I mean, the way it's planned now is that Mark or I, or Keith could be, could be the reps to talk to the press. Unless someone else wants to volunteer, you're welcome to do it.
I would really like you to do it, Morton. I really would. I just, they see us, every other, third week and on there and, all animated. I just think you would really add something to that. I really
Okay,
do.
I'll be happy to.
And I would like to be able to say, please call Mort if you want to comment. Well, in a very nice way. I mean, I'm not trying to dodge because I love to talk. But, I think. Well, I opened myself up here. Guys and girl, I'm trying so hard to be really quiet to not add to this meeting, and now here I go.
Okay.
But, anyway, go
At least
ahead.
they're funny, Mark.
Yeah.
That's the plan for now. I'm around all day, so it's no problem.
Okay.
We're.
And press release, city pages, radio, TV, newspaper.
Press release goes out to like every media person in the area.
Yeah, okay. Brian Kowalski called me last week.
Right,
And I begged him to not put it in until we have a release.
right.
And he said he would, so.
Next door.
So they all get it together.
Barb's got a good question.
Yeah,
I just was saying that, what about that next door neighbor, put it through
Next
four
door.
neighborhoods,
for the neighborhood thing, yeah.
you know,
That's from the village.
Right.
And there's people that follow that.
Right.
Well, it's actually from San Francisco, but every community is in there, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Today, the big thing was, why is the Starbucks closed in Red Mountain?
Yeah.
So I thought, seriously? Wow.
Oh, there was a cat on the porch the other day.
Yeah, I saw the cat. Yeah, I shoot it away.
the lost cats and dogs.
God.
Let's move on. So our agenda for next meeting, probably need to
Mark?
have some ideas. Brian,
At the risk of extending this along, the last meeting ended with a question on the floor that was being debated. Are we all on board and able to fully support this project? And I moved to adjourn, and I said I didn't want to end the discussion, but I also wanted to leave.
So are you asking us,
If it is still a question, I think it needs to be dealt with.
are you asking if we're all on board?
Yes.
I am on board. If you want single people to say stuff, I'll start and I'll say I'm on board.
My sense was that there were people around the table that still had serious questions. And I don't know if those have been answered or if in the meantime that's gone away. And that does not include me. I'm on board, but.
Okay, Dwayne?
Yeah, I listened last meeting quite detailed, and I thought about it quite extensively, and that's why I had those questions I had tonight. Basically, I know you've read everything, you'd seen everything, I didn't get a chance to review it all, I didn't make questions and answers, but basically, I wanted to see the process they went through, and it's been very detailed, so I'm on board.
I'm on board. I'm enthusiastic about the project. I think it's high time we did something in this community like this. I think it's a great project, long overdue, and I think it meets my vision for sure, but our vision of what this community ought to be. Lauren?
I think, does this committee need to make a formal motion to pass on to the village board? That we have studied this, we feel that we need to progress in formal action because it's advisory in nature, of course. But I think it formalizes the work that we've done here, and we will be continuing to do some work afterwards also, is my understanding. But I don't know if it takes a motion or a consensus or whatever you want to call it.
Well, according to our charge initially, we were actually to report back to the Board of Trustees by November 30th or something. I think that's what the original charge was.
Yeah, we're a little late.
I'm not sure what form that was supposed to be in. I'm not sure the trustees figured out what form that's supposed to be in or what they were looking for from us. But I would be prepared to have a motion passed by this committee that we are recommending that the village move forward with this project as it has been amended and recommended by us in terms of the changes and the recommendations, including the recommendations for communicating this to the residents. I think it would be appropriate for us to make that formal action. But when is the board meeting? When is the 30th? No, that's next.
We have a planning on the, let's see, 11, 12, 13th, right?
Right.
Planning is on the 13th, second Monday, and then board is on the third Monday, which would be the 20th.
This month will be the 21st.
21st, I'm sorry, yeah. So planning is first, and that's where something might be there for that. And then board is there. So we could, I don't know what you're all thinking, but if we could actually do the same thing, the same vote from here, informal or not, next week, Wednesday too.
I like that, next week, Wednesday, formal.
Next week, we'll make a formal vote. All right, so
Yeah, I just.
So if people have stuff to talk about, they can.
Well, yeah, I guess, I know we talked about some different changes, and of course, the mechanical was way beyond me, but, you're gonna be talking to someone on that, so that to me is kind of a issue that's kind of hanging there, yet we don't know, and whatever happened to the fuel island?
I said my piece and I'm not on this committee.
No, I don't know what happened.
If the fuel island goes through, even though I don't agree with it at all, completely don't agree with it, I will still vote yes.
Well, I know.
But I am not on this committee, so Keith and I cannot vote with the rest of you.
I know, but I personally want to know what happened to it.
Oh,
The
okay.
answer to that question, trustee Ermeling, is that is one of the items that is a alternate in the bid. So it would be selected after the bids are open, whether or not we would go forward with that.
Right.
Well, after the conversation we were going, I wasn't sure if we had half decided we were going to go with a different route, or
Yeah.
we were gonna go with this, and I really didn't have a concrete answer to it. So I have marked here what
Right.
happened to it.
But doesn't that, by leaving it in and going through the bid, doesn't that also, is that gonna be part of our process on how much this is? I mean, how can we have all these little dovetails? Well, this might not get approved, this might not get approved, this might get approved. So what's our actual
So
number?
what
Right
it
now in
does,
the estimate.
what it does, Mark, it moves that decision forward to the Board of Trustees.
Okay, that's fine.
By putting it in as an alternate, we're saying, okay, we're kicking that down the road. The board can decide that.
Okay. Got it.
Because they're the ones that will accept the bids.
Right.
And they will the ones that will decide on the alternates.
Good point.
Right.
Good point.
So our job is done by including it as an alternate.
Mhm.
Their job is to decide which one they want to go with. Okay?
Okay, thank you, because that,
So then for next week, go ahead, John.
Because I'm a little detailed, I think a formal, I don't want to call it a resolution, but a bullet process that we send to the board, what we all discuss, should be in writing. And that'd be nice to move on that kind of a document.
Draft the resolution for next time, is that what you'd like to see?
Yeah, I'd like to see
Yeah,
that.
that might be good. to
It'd be
have
good
a-
because it's from a resolution from us, and we'll address what Bart just talked about, address what Gary talked about, address a lot of things that we've been kicking around. And even though we would say it's gonna bid it, we're gonna do an alternative, at least you have a document that we send to the board and we know, they say that we did some work.
Well, we also have 5 board members here right now.
I realize that.
Okay.
But that's.
Yeah, but we gotta remind them.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. The 2 young ones that aren't here? Okay.
What I'm doing it for is more for the press release, the document that.
Yep.
Yep. Did some work and the people say, where did you, what did they really do? No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Steve, you said we've all seen it all, but I haven't seen the final plan indicating the final layout of everything. And that includes whether we're gonna have a giant lunchroom or not, or whether we're gonna have a big vacant room on the first floor or not, or I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. So I'm all for the new building, don't misunderstand me. I think we need that, but there's other things, Dwayne brought up last week, I think, whether we needed, what do you call it, warm storage or cold storage or whatever for the snow trucks or the snow plows and stuff like that. That's never been even discussed.
If you look at the site plan, they did talk about it. I mean, you have to look real close at site plan. You gotta listen when John talks. They have certain items that they're gonna have in the shop. And I see it as a lot of iron in there, and they're using irradiant heat to heat the iron so you get the thing out the door. The cold storage, if you don't have space, you don't have their process, then you're gonna have a larger cold storage.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying is I don't know how if we don't have the final plans indicating what it is, how do you know what the price is gonna be or whether it's acceptable or not? That's how I'm looking.
Basically, if you look at the conceptual plan, it's kind of covered everything we talked about. But if you remember, the architect said we're at 50%, now maybe even 60% completed. Because of all discussion that we've had, there's gonna be a lot of changes that I can see that's being made now in the final design. And the final design documents will be available at the time we had bidding. Bid documents. And so if you look at some of the stuff that we see up here on top of here, you'll go through it. You're pretty well knowing what is being, like I asked the question tonight, what we're gonna have upstairs, what future. And also we know the expansion where it's gonna go for a missile building, for the vehicle storage portion of it. And if you even look at, you're doing second floor and you say, okay, I also looked at the site plan and said, I didn't look at the room makeup, but if they really, really talk about more years down the road, 50 years down the road, and you got a good facility, you got the bones, you got everything in place, you can also you got land to go to the south or even municipal expansion, but not going up. Right? See, those are the things I was looking at long term from it, Steve. If you want to get in, you get further into detail, and I don't want to sound negative, okay? Get further into detail, it's like, okay, you got X amount of buildings, X amount of office space,
you know, the office space is like, you know, with pretty good sized offices. I mean, if I've been in the municipal sector myself, I'd love to have an office that big, that portion of it. I personally see it's much smaller offices in my career, personally. And so for, you're looking at the office space, you know, what really is, I call the bullpen section, and people need the bullpen, excuse my term, the middle portion, and what really goes for the high level offices. And if you're going to have a lot of conference rooms, you will coordinate, which I've done on this board, you coordinate your meetings in the conference room to use a schedule system instead of trying to have people have meetings in their individual offices. That's just my comments. I don't know, Scott, that's what you're talking about, maybe, or if that's your comment is like, is there really opportunities to really, I mean, I heard it the last time. I chuckled, you know, the Fox designed the hen house. And I thought about that overnight quite some time. Those discussions that occurred with the staff and the architect. I don't believe it occurred with this, deal with this committee and the process. I don't want to be negative, but I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty open like Mark.
But then aren't we just confirming what the employees wanted and not necessarily what is needed?
True, but I'm going to finally make the statement is that we were given this assignment kind of behind the process. In other words, a lot of it has been in place before it came to this committee. If we had a great world to live in, but nice to have the committee designed earlier before we got to this process. And you could maybe gone through the design discussions or square footage discussions, which I don't think we were given that preview to do that. I think we were given the preview to look at from a community standpoint, not a building. And that's how I saw our assignment. So I'm just giving you my comment how I read our assignment.
Right, but if, I mean, Mark, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. I assume that we were supposed to help in the, not just making a decision on whether this is a building that we want to stand behind, but are you in favor of all of the sizes of these offices? Are you able to stand there and say that we need what was it, 20-some hundred? 155? I mean, I don't know. I don't build buildings for a living, but I know our offices and our buildings weren't that big, or as many conference rooms, or as much file storage that they have. I'm just saying, there's a whole lot of surplus space at, was it $120-some a foot, that right this second, I'm not real comfortable with. And I don't know, I mean, if those changes aren't being made or aren't being considered or looked at, it's difficult to get my arms around it. I'm just finding it difficult.
Well, I think, Ryan,
I think sometimes just to Dwayne's point and Steve's point and others probably, absolutely this committee is late in the game. Absolutely. This thing started in 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever. It has been driven by staff and by administration, former one, and an architect. And very late in the game though, you know, several lay people made the suggestion that, you know, we should really have a building committee. And so, yes, it's late. Yes, we got involved. I have no issue with anything on this building except the administration. That's where I have the issues. I have the issues with size. I don't know if we should really attack sizes of offices. Instead, just, and I don't mean, the attack word is a hard word. But if we want to have an issue with the administration, first or second level, maybe the concept is to tell the architect, we want 10% off. We want 10% shrinkage, 20% shrinkage. I mean, maybe that's what we do to have that part be different. You know, we've got a whole lot of blue up there. We got a whole election area laying open. We have a very flexible boardroom, which I think is very important. And if we're actually talking about individual offices being too big, and all the conference rooms.
I'm not picking out any.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm just saying that.
I don't know if we can dissect it to that point versus.
On your branches that you build, you would probably get questioned on that. I know I would have if I would have suggested.
I mean, to me, the offices are larger than they need. However, I trust that the architect and the staff looked at their needs. So the need for an office at the credit union is different than the need for other offices. I can go by a 9 by 10 member facing office. Most of our stuff is electronic. They don't keep anything in their offices, things like that. So while they're bigger than I would say like to see, maybe they should be 10 by 11. You know, now we're getting kind of cut slim on cutting hairs. So I trust that the architect, Keith, and the team looked at it and said, this is what we need. There may be a little bit of fat on there, but not enough for me to say negative things about.
I had that conversation with John, the architect, and I said, you know, with your meetings with staff, these meetings aren't about wants, they're about needs. And I want you to look at all the buildings you've built and all the buildings you've designed and build our building for the staff that won't be here in the future. None of us are gonna be here as long as this building will be here. And I don't want little personal things done to this building, and look at it as long range, different people working here, different uses. And look at Oshkosh, look at Little Chute, look at all the Mequon, look at all the ones you've done, and do it that, you know, more according to that and our growth and ever. And I trust John in that, so I'm gonna say that. Boy, that's a big thing for me to say, to trust a vendor. I'm talking right now, okay? Thank you. I hear you talking a lot back here, and just please, okay? So, for me to say that I actually feel good about a vendor, because I usually don't. I feel good about the company I'm working for or the village that I'm serving right here. And I do not get in bed. I try very hard not to have relationships with vendors, or in this instance, an architect. But I really feel good about this guy. I do. And I know he's listening. And Dwayne is the one guy that said a lot of times is, out of all the architects he's worked with, he's got a pretty good thought about John too. So I'm like Brian said, I'm giving up a little bit here. I am. I brought up a lot of concerns and a lot of critiques. I floated them out there because I felt that was my purpose to do that, get these aired out now, just like Brian did. And then see where this discussion goes and see where this committee goes, because that's how I'm gonna support this. This village absolutely needs this. I had a couple of conversations with Mort, and Mort said, guess what? We are growing and we have to start acting like it. And this ain't some Taj Mahal, but this is gonna definitely set the tone for a long future of what Weston is about and what we're gonna be able to handle and the service we're gonna provide. And that's why I'm supporting this. Whether there's some things I don't agree with, don't even bring up the showers. But I'm gonna support this as a whole. And it's Mort's meeting, so go ahead, Mort.
Lauren first.
I'll yield to Mr. Gary.
I was just gonna ask, so John, what is your opinion on these office sizes and?
John, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I think based on the office sizes, they fit the individual tasks that go on in there. You know, from the administrator down to the IT, you know what I mean? They're not all the same size, but they're also in line with what tasks that need to go on inside those offices.
So, just to kind of follow up on that, John, and I think the comments tie back to what occurred during the facilities evaluation of the space needs study. And I think to Mark's point, your determination or your assessment of what sizes offices were needed was based on some other experience, correct? I mean, it's not just that it came out of the blue.
That's correct. It's historical data, and very little was driven by each individual staff member saying, I need this in there. It was a global input from all the staff members, not just, I want this in my office. It never was that, to be honest with you.
Okay, Lauren.
So I've been around since this process started, and I understand as far as talk to department directors, staff, even street crew, as far as I recall. I've been involved in this. In fact, I remodeled the Day Electric building, so we moved in there as a PD. That's a long time ago. But we actually used paper storage closets for office So anything that was better than what we had was like, woo-hoo. But I don't think staff has been here a long time and they are dedicated to serve the people of the village of Weston. I don't think they're in it for personal gain, because if they were, they'd have a different job with more money. End of story.
Barb?
Yeah, well, I worked in some of those cramped offices for quite a while, but I guess I just looked at that and I have made the comment that, wow, those are some pretty big offices. You know, I was kind of looking, but when I thought about it, the staff here deals a lot still with paper. I mean, I know we're a paperless society, but there is a lot of things that they are doing that it isn't just dealing with the customer across the desk. And I guess I finally decided that I was going to trust the architect, that he would know what other municipal buildings, what they've been building and what they, you know, their requirements, and they've been using it. That's what you know, if he feels that's what they need, then I trust that fact that that's what they need.
Mark?
Yes.
Husheng.
Go ahead.
You know, I've been involved in this project at least for a while, a little bit longer, I think, like Lauren and Barb. And I've been involved in some other structure similar to it. And the architect has a procedure he follows to come with the size of the structure, to type of a structure. You think about the usage of it, you think about the people living in there, people using it day in and day out. Then he do this layout. He watched the movement of the people in the office. And a couple of you mentioned you trust the architect. I think we should trust the architect because that's his job. He has done it for a living for years. And we should have some faith on him and let him do his job. And he has done a good job for us. He answered all the questions. If he didn't know it, he didn't make up the answer. He said, I don't know it. I'll come back to you. So, and this office, I think is big, or you think it's big, but we're not living in there. We're not working in there. I think we should take the idea of the people who work in there. They spend 8 hours or 10 hours a day in those offices. They know what they need. We should give them opportunity to express their opinion and consider it. And, you know, somebody said the opposite, that do we have to have such a fancy building? It's not really fancy building. It's a modern structure. If you build a different shape like a village of Rothschild, I can guarantee you the cost is not going to be significantly different. And still, we got to pay for certain things. There is no way out of it. We can build a cheaper building today, but the future generation going to pay for it to fix it. And it's easy to do it and let somebody else take care of it. I think you have done a great job so far. We have done a great job as a committee to bring the project where it is and what it is. And we should continue with it and let the architect finish it. And I don't think it's expensive. Personally, when you consider all those items involved in it, price of the land, the size of the facility, the usage of the facility, it's not that expensive. And I think it's going to last for a long time.
Thank you. Lauren?
I think if someone can point, I think this is the most incorporated drawing we have of the first floor. Is this incorporating the things that we've discussed as a committee? Because I see the bathrooms have been moved, the showers have been fixed.
This is the update, yes.
Is this the most current update?
Of the first floor.
Of the first floor, okay. So, yes. It looks like it incorporated all the things we talked about over the last. Michael's got a comment.
I was just gonna say, so there are And I believe there's 3 different options on the first floor and 3 different options on the second floor. There's slight variations in each, so I guess at some point we probably just need to finalize or discuss which version we're leaning towards more, and then if there's other tweaks that need to be made.
Well, I would assume we have to make those before we let the bids out.
Correct, yeah,
That's gotta happen by next week.
correct.
I'd say next week, we probably should finally make the decision.
I think that's gotta get floated out to the committee prior to the meeting, please.
Yep.
You know, by Friday or
So
weekend.
what we're saying is we need to get versions out to the committee before next week's meeting. And next week's meeting will be the final decision on which version we are recommending, okay?
So based on comments, I guess you don't really care what staff favors? I'm sorry.
I actually don't. I actually don't. I'm sorry, I don't.
I believe that's what Steve was asking for before, is are we gonna be voting on a final set of plans? I think he's confused. What are we approving?
Which plans are they? So whatever motion is made to go to the board or recommendation, I'm just saying, I agree that we need a building. I just don't know which one we're looking at.
I don't.
First or second
Or question answered. There's still some things to be answered. I guess we're looking money that you're supporting the project going forward as much as anything. You can still work on it.
So you talked about the board, just real quick. You talked about the board, or I mean, what staff favors. So everything we do on boards and on committees, you always have a recommendation. So if you want to throw a recommendation on there, 7 like this one, 8 like this one, and 2 like this one, fine. But, I actually think we should throw a little money at this. This is a really big deal. And I'd like to see those options in color and maybe 11 by 17, maybe available here. I mean, could we have it done by Monday or Friday? I don't know.
We have them.
I mean, just to go back and forth on
a
computer screen for me is hard. Young people have a blast.
I would like to have it on a computer screen.
Also,
Before the
yes,
meeting, yeah.
yes, I agree.
When is this actually gonna go out for bid?
February.
January. Goal was to get it out in January, yeah. What was the date, John, that we were shooting
First part
for?
of January.
Well, let's be careful though. If we change the mechanical design, it's gonna add time.
Okay.
So let's not use that. We want to make sure we get the right design. But if focused on energy and we work through and it's decided to change the mechanical system, it's going to take time to rechange it.
Right.
My opinion is there's gonna be modifications, variables to this plan. And I personally don't care to get involved with, well, maybe this is an open space or this is gonna be an office, or, maybe some of these office sizes are gonna be a little bigger or a little smaller. I think my opinion as a committee member, building committee member, is just the overall support of the project. Is it thumbs up or is it thumbs down? And I think the rest of it, as far as HVAC systems and everything that goes along with that, I think we have to trust our village administrators, we have to trust our architect and let them run with it. It's either we're gonna approve it or we're not gonna approve it as a committee. There's gonna be changes. There'll be changes, I'm sure even after it goes to bid, there'll be
changes as they're building.
Right.
Right.
Brian?
I guess,
Mark, this is,
would you add to your comment?
hello?
We are an advisory committee. We aren't the final arbiters of office size and all that stuff. So from my perspective, we are going to make a recommendation that the concept of the building and the overall design, subject to final approval by the Board of Trustees. And we're at a conceptual level, not a fine detail level. So as a committee member here, I'm fine with that.
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead, Kushan.
these changes has to be a stop someplace.
Yeah.
Just continually changing and changing. Has to be a stop. We got to make a decision. And
I kind of agree. I like Brian's concept approach. you know, if we were gonna actually help design this facility, we should have been started on this 6 months ago.
Right.
2 years ago.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
We are not in a position to make final decisions on office sizes. That discussion could go on forever.
And I don't believe we should, because we're not the ones working in them.
Right.
Right. So I think, as Brian said, we move forward with the concept that's been presented to us. Having trust and faith in the architect and the employees and the administrator, whatever, we're here to approve the concept that the village needs to move forward with this project. And if they wanna fiddle with the office size, it's fine, the board can do that. We don't have the time to do that. We need to get this thing moving forward with a recommendation, broad recommendation to move forward.
Right.
There's nothing in here that we think should stop the project dead. And that's what we're saying here. We can't agree to this unless we change this, or we change that, or we fiddle with this over here. That we don't have time for that, frankly. We need to move forward with this concept so that the village board, if they choose, can make some changes. But we've already got some alternates in there that we know they're gonna happen. That's their choice, not ours. We're just giving them the alternates that they can deal with, they can vote on them. So I say let's move forward, and next week we'll have a resolution that incorporates us moving forward with a recommendation to the board. Go with this project as we have it so far. Brian?
I guess with that recommendation, I mean, they said there's three, you said, Michael, 3 options.
Correct.
I think we should review the 3 options and give our recommendation to one of the 3. Doesn't mean that the board doesn't change what it does, but what I'm saying is we should give a recommendation. This is the one, as a committee, we feel most comfortable. I'm not saying changing room sizes. I'm saying where the lunchroom is, where the bath, the jet like this. Do we like this one? Do we like option 2, or do we like option 3?
With referral from staff.
And that's kind of what I was gonna lean to, but I'm not the one that's gonna be working in this building, and I'm not familiar with what's the best, so I would hope our architect and administrator would have a recommendation to us what's the best. I don't feel I have that ability to make that final.
I feel I do.
I feel that way about almost everything in my life.
I mean, I built 12 facilities.
So
I know what
I just do. I can't help it.
I'm sorry.
But I bow to that. Yeah, I do.
So I'm sorry, Brian, I missed the last part of your comment.
No, I just said, I built 12 facilities, so I'm confident that I can give a good recommendation that will satisfy the village constituents and the staff. I mean, I deal with staff in every building I've built.
Right, but I'm not familiar with what, let's say, for example, our crew or road crew, what they do on a regular basis, and what's enough shower space and what's not enough, and what's appropriate for locker space and what's not. I'm not familiar with what takes place in this building, so
Right, but that's what the architect has in the 3 options.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
I agree with Brian, just because each of us come with a different experience,
Yeah.
different background. I agree that if I've dealt with my career, I would like to look at all 3 and give you my opinion, what recommendation I prefer to make. Doesn't mean you get to take it. I just want to give them, all of us will have a different idea.
Sure.
Well, it sounds like if you're willing to take the time, then we should have the layouts for each of the 3 options mailed to us or somehow.
You put it up on the cloud?
So it sounds like we want. Yeah, well, you can have the PDF version can come, by email or through the cloud, and if somebody wants a hard copy,
Yeah.
you can make hard copies and have them. Last time we picked them up here, I guess.
Available here, yeah. And with your recommendations, with what staff.
Who's not able to get this stuff with a PDF? Anybody that cannot access that?
Well,
sounds like that would.
For whatever reason, I wasn't able to print last week.
anything. I couldn't bring it. It didn't come up. I couldn't see it. I couldn't either, but I went back in a couple of days and was able to get it. I don't know.
Just go back to Nate and tell him to.
You
maybe
couldn't
something
print
that
what,
he
some
did.
of the attachments on emails?
I couldn't know that the attachments, yeah, the attachments wouldn't come up on my computer at all. So I couldn't see them.
Actually, I couldn't get them the first time. I turned around, went back in, they came up the second time.
Okay.
It might be because of the size of the files.
Right. It takes that long for the file to get loaded.
That was the drawings or was that just other attachments?
Just the other attachments.
I had problems with the drawing.
Okay, if you cannot get the drawings to come up, then you can come over here and you can print them off.
We could print them off, I guess.
Print them off.
The biggest we can make is 11 by. or
17.
11.
Ledger size.
That's good. That's
So I'm
fine.
gonna send
That's
printing
fine.
again and get some others.
And then-
made.
Yeah.
For next week, for sure, we will decide on the options.
Okay.
And that will be our recommendation moving forward. Okay, Brian?
A suggestion to hopefully move it along. The people on the committee that feel confident and capable of making the kind of decisions you just talked about, do that prior to our meeting. So that you're ready to make a recommendation to the rest of us that are not able, competent to go into the kind of detailed look at that you folks can.
How would that work?
I think we need to come, like Brian said, and others have said either way, come prepared that you have your option chosen. And see where that is with the rest of the committee and or staff and the architect. I think that's a great idea. And if you choose not to, that's fine. You'll probably vote with the majority, you know? I think that's a great idea.
Would our architect
Yeah.
and Keith lay them out? This is option
Yep.
one. This is option two. These are the pluses and minuses. This
Sure.
is what we feel would be, why we need an option one versus option two.
Hey, John,
Yes,
quick question for you. When you do these three options, can you guys call out the areas that are changed so somebody doesn't miss some things?
Circle them or something.
yeah, what I was gonna say, it's real simple. It's not like these are high-level options. Pretty much it's all focused on the right-hand side of the screen you're seeing,
Yeah.
the lunch training, the break room, and the hallway. You're talking everything else on the first floor is the same. So
Yep. Okay.
it's not like you need to, and they're all labeled 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So it's pretty, the lockers are all, so pretty much you're not looking for multiple things all over the plan. So it's not like an I Spy thing. It's essentially
I like I Spy.
that area right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Lauren?
I think also even because I'm probably gonna get some feedback negative about this, but I think staff might wanna take a look at these first, not first, but along with this.
Oh, yeah. So
I
the
mean-
staff's gonna give
Well, they
their
will be.
choice.
They will be, yeah.
Staff's gonna give their
Well,
suggestions.
Not that it's gonna make or break the decision by the board, but I think I personally would like to be, hey, you're gonna be working in this closet. Oh, really? Thank you. Or, this is great. Don't give it away the great stuff. Just, you have to grumble a little bit first.
I'm assuming staff has had a chance and opportunity to look at where they're.
I don't know about these. Has
Yes.
seen these three
Go
versions?
look at them today quickly.
Yeah.
We didn't have
Okay.
everybody here, but.
Okay.
You got another week.
Not that it's a deal breaker if they don't like it, but I think they should at least have some input on it.
All right.
And the reason why. If
Go ahead,
they
Barb.
don't like something on it, the reason why, what's
Yes.
behind that.
Right, not just because I don't like it.
Yeah.
Dwayne?
Not that I think one of the persons in the back had a question hand up. I don't want to, I don't want us to. Would you have any comment that you want to make?
Okay,
Scotty?
I was just gonna say that when we talked with the designer, he just asked us about what our future looked like for staff. And my understanding, he was told to design to the future also.
All right, thanks. Just
So
wanted
that
to.
didn't have a plug.
okay,
I'm trying to get everybody in.
okay. I think that's enough discussion on that. So, do your homework for next week. And we will decide next week for sure which option we are recommending. We will have a resolution to the village board of trustees, move forward with X, Y, Z. And then we'll also get ready for the press release and our flyer next week.
We'll be prepared for alternates then as well?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
All right, Dwayne makes a motion to
Unless you have
adjourn.
another question.
Aaron?
Second that.
Aaron seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. See you next week.
Gary, do you got a second?
Oh, is the preference? Yeah. Some kind of electronic training.
Ryan?
Somehow, yeah, the head.
You're done. And I will.
So I'm gonna keep,
You keep going.
keep putting signs on fire.
That's fine. But when she's out, I'm coming after you. You're in, because you need to be on this board. Whether you're listening to her or not, I don't know, but he.
Ask her if I listen.
The first meeting, I did nothing, a little bit, then a little bit more.
Somehow that's.
You got a lot to go. So he's probably gonna. I'm sure you want to.
So when this came up, I actually did, and I said.
Yeah, but nobody told me she was gonna be on it.
Yeah, well, I didn't know it was gonna go horrible. It's a year. It's an ongoing thing. First day of a meeting, horrible. I was on. Yeah.
The last wasn't.
I know. It's gonna work.
I was the youngest guy.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else was a guy.
Not like.
I'm going, how is this across section of the city of
I
Wausau?
used to be the young one. I don't know when.
Call me when you got something to do.
Good job.
I tell them all to. Spend it easy. I'm there for it.
Hear from you soon.
Okay.
Soon as you got something.
That's it?